We're around 60 to 70 plus more. So I'm going to go ahead and jump in. I think any of us could admit folks. If you see someone waiting in the lounge, feel free to admit them. Like I said already, this invite went out to a lot of people. This will likely be our largest live stream ever. Just at the top, I want to cover housekeeping. Because we have likely on the order of maybe 200 folks here today, please mute your microphone. And if there are any questions, we'd love it if you could use the chat function. And I will moderate those questions as we go. Some of those answers I may be typing as responses in the chat. Others we may pull up and talk about if we have time. We should have plenty of time for some live Q&A. So with that, I will just jump in and say thanks everybody for joining. We have a really great live stream today to talk about what's new, what's recently come out from Beyond CAD. That's mainly Civil Engine version 1.1, and then talk about what's next on our roadmap. So with that, I will introduce Sam Lytle, founder of Beyond CAD. Go ahead, Sam, take it away.
Yeah, thanks, Brian. And just echo your remarks that it's great to be here. We're grateful for all of you joining us. And we do have some good stuff to cover. I've got a super amazing PowerPoint, but we want to get through it pretty quickly so that we can answer whatever questions you guys have. So we will open up questions towards the end. So just a brief outline. So we've been doing welcome and introductions, and we're going to talk about Civil Engine version 1.1, which just came out a few weeks ago. And we'll get into Beyond Typicals 4, which is our current focus, talk about our 2026 roadmap, and then jump to questions and answers. So again, I'm Sam Lytle. I am the founder of Beyond CAD. We also have Brian that introduced himself at the beginning. He'll be helping out with this as well. Brian does a lot of our customer support and onboarding, and so many of you probably already know him. All right, so I want to talk about Civil Engine version 1.1. And just as a reminder, we released Civil Engine version 1 in May. And so we've started to get a lot of really good users, and we're seeing that used on actual projects already, which is really great. One of the exciting things about Civil Engine is we're just seeing it have a lot of synergy with Beyond Typicals users. So a lot of our Beyond Typicals customers have requested demos, have shown interest, and many of them have already purchased Civil Engine. So if you are in any way interested in Civil Engine, please book a demo with us. Reach out to myself or Brian, DM us on LinkedIn, email us. Mine's sam@beyondcad.com. Brian's is brian@beyondcad.com. And we'd love to jump on a call and show you what Civil Engine is and how it's complementary to what you're already doing with Beyond Typicals. So what Civil Engine version 1.1 was like, within the first few weeks and months of Civil Engine 1 coming out, we noticed there were some bugs that could be easily addressed, a few features that we could sneak in, a few assets. And before shifting our complete focus to Beyond Typicals 4, we wanted to get version 1.1 out to kind of get a more polished version of Civil Engine 1. And so we released it earlier this month. The highlights are bug fixes. I'll show some of those in just a second. New 3D assets. A lot of those 3D assets were kind of expansion pack assets for Beyond Typicals. There were bridge assets. There were some safety and construction assets, some traffic delineators, and we can dig more into that if we need to. Also, steering wheel support. This is something that we know not a ton of people are going to use initially, but we have seen requests for it. And if you're able to spend a lot of time building a really nice model in Civil Engine, it's super cool to be able to go to a public meeting and use a steering wheel. That's something that I've done in the past, and it's really cool. Path area export import. So again, this was a much requested feature. Sometimes you can make a really cool custom fence, maybe even with custom assets, but then like it's stuck in your Civil Engine file. So now we have a proprietary way to export that and send it to another Civil Engine user or import it into another Civil Engine project. And that's super valuable in just building more intellectual property in our workflows so that we can just keep adding value to this kind of stuff and not have to redo work. Also, we have a video dynamic asset. That's super nice to be able to to do, like Brian did a demo where you're doing a drive-in movie theater, or sometimes like if you're in Las Vegas, like all the casinos have video board. There's just some cool things that you can do with that. Also, super important is we did an entirely new rendering system. There was a bug that I'll show in a bit that some have noticed, where when they were bright or certain colors, they would just render incorrectly. And so we actually swapped out the entire rendering system. Now we're using FFmpeg. And so not only can you get MP4s, but you can do AVIs, WMVs. There's a number of video file formats that you can export to, you can render to now. And so that's much more stable. And as part of that, we also pushed out, when you're rendering, you can push out the shadow distance on trees. In video games and in 3D visualization, there's the LODs, which creates popping when you're moving around in a model. And sometimes we were seeing that in renders. And so now it might take a little bit more time to render, but if you want to, you can push out that shadow distance. So your renders are going to just look so much better as part of that overall process. We're trying to keep a tally of these features. So if you go to Civil Engine, you go to beyondcad.com/CE1-1. Brian will post it in the comments. You guys can visit this. Basically, if you scroll down, we're keeping a live tally of these fixes as we create content around it, post things on LinkedIn. This one's that render glitch bug, and that doesn't happen anymore. And this was really frustrating for things like traffic signals. You couldn't even get those reds to show up. So now that's even fixed. For example, this is a demo here that Brian posted showing that difference in the LOD and the shadow distance. Again, a really nice feature if you want it. We've got a few showing the dynamic video asset. Just fast forward this to the end. Essentially, this is a drive-in movie theater, and the movie's actually playing. The one caveat to this, and this is going to be for future development, but you can't render out something where the video will play correctly, because render times are different than real time, and that video is playing in real time, and so that video may be playing too fast or too slow when you do a render. So for real time, like the explore mode, it's going to be really great, but it's not going to work great for renders, just FYI. This is also a video Brian posted about the custom paths. So you could do a custom path with whatever attributes you want. Multiple assets. We can add up to 5 asset slots. You can do custom visualizers. You export that, and then you import it into an entirely new Civil Engine scene. And when you import that preset, it's going to come with all those same parameters. So there's a ton of use cases that can be done for this. The same is true for areas as well. I posted another video showing dynamic video assets. Again, in Las Vegas, where I've done a lot of visualization, they have these video boards on buildings, but there are a number of other ways you can use that. And then I posted this video. If you haven't seen this, I highly recommend it, especially with the sound on. Basically, I had my kids try out driving mode, and my 15-year-old son was just locked in because he's getting ready to do his driver's test and get his permit, and the younger kids weren't quite as focused on driving correctly. They were just having a lot of fun. I may have edited it to make them look bad too. So that's the highlights of Civil Engine. Again, we do plan on continuing to post updates on that, content around that. So follow us on LinkedIn if you're not already, and we'd love to hear your feedback on that as well. All right, so let's jump to Beyond Typicals 4. Again, our development team is small, and so we like to focus on one product and then shift focus to the other product for the most part. And so now we're back to Beyond Typicals 4. We're looking at a fall or maybe winter release. We do want to get this out by the end of the year. We released Beyond Typicals 3 last May, I believe, and it's proven to be a super stable and good release and product. We have so many people using it now, but we do want to get to do Beyond Typicals 4. A lot of that is going to be all the work that we've done on Civil Engine over the last year plus. We're bringing that over. That's assets, that's materials, that's improvements. I mean, for example, in Beyond Typicals, the current version, you can only do 2 asset slots. I'm pretty sure we're going to be able to do the full 5 asset slots that you have in Civil Engine for pass, because the pass system in Civil Engine it corresponds to the sections system in Beyond Typicals. Also, like the organization hierarchy we have in Civil Engine, we're going to bring that over in a way that makes sense for Beyond Typicals. Even the publisher, we're going to bring it over. We're probably going to have it off by default. And if for those of you that don't, it's like a more advanced camera system, but that will be in there as well. One of our goals with these, now that we have two solid products, is we want to sync their development as much as possible. If there's something that we can do in one, then we want to keep that equal in the other, so that that saves on development time, that saves on users. They know they have consistency between user interfaces and expectations. And again, these are complementary products, but they're not going to replace each other. Like, if you tried to do sections in Civil Engine, it would probably be a disaster. If you tried to do, some people tried to do advanced stuff in Beyond Typicals, like importing base models, it doesn't work very well. You can't do paths, you can't do advanced traffic, all that stuff. So we need two products, but we're trying to keep them in sync as much as possible to have a cohesive experience, because we're getting more and more users using both. Also, bug fixes. We have a whole list of bug fixes. We're going to get a lot of them addressed, and that's going to be exciting. Also, some new features and Boost 3D. So now I actually want to throw it over to Brian to kind of highlight Beyond Typicals for development, and also kind of show what this AI Boost 3D thing is going to be.
Cool. Thanks, Sam. All right, I took over screen share. I posted this in the chat. This is kind of a placeholder page for now because there's a lot more to come with Beyond Typicals version 4, but this is a landing page, just beyondcad.com/BT4. You can come back to this over the course of our development. We will update this with more information and news as it comes out. Just want to highlight that if you are using Beyond Typicals version 3, when version 4 comes out, just download the new version. All of your Beyond Typicals version 3 BTIP files will be able to be opened in BTIP4 or BT4, and you'll be able to use all the new features that come with it. Like Sam said, there's a lot of stuff that we did in Civil Engine that we're going to port over into the next version of Beyond Typicals. So you'll have more vehicles to choose from, more textures, more assets. The scene effects in Civil Engine are really cool. We've only got 3 in Beyond Typicals. I think in Civil Engine, we've got upwards of maybe almost a dozen or so, including like some cool cartoon ones that are in there. So a lot of cool stuff that we like Sam said, just reiterating, doing in Civil Engine and trying to keep consistent for Beyond Typicals. There's also some new features in Beyond Typicals that people have asked for over time that we've tried to incorporate as well. Some of those are raising and lowering bridge sections. Right now, they're kind of locked into one elevation. We're going to give you the flexibility to move those up and down. If you have multiple bridges in one scene, you can raise them relative to one another. Font size for section labels has been a constant request from folks, so we're going to try to add some more customization to those to make those labels more legible if that's what you're going for. We've got those new video output formats that we're using the FFmpeg render pipeline to take care of, and then some things that we're working on that we can't quite guarantee yet, but more things that we've heard. Some of the sloped sections we're trying to make a little more intuitive, so we're kind of working through slope sections and lanes to maybe do a 2% sidewalk or an 8% shoulder. We're going to try to give you a little more flexibility there. Rotating phases in layout mode. If you know what layout mode is and know what this is, I'm sure this is exciting. Basically, in Beyond Typicals, you can stack sections on top of one another. A lot of people would want to rotate maybe a bridge to 90 degrees relative to the lower lanes. That's something we're looking at right now, hoping to incorporate that. But I really want to cover Boost 3D. This is the really exciting thing that I've been playing around with lately. What I hear a lot from our customers is our asset library is great, but it's missing this one specific thing for my project that's really going to refine the realism of that. We want to capitalize on some of the generative AI stuff that's out there lately, and we've worked with a few different AI 3D model generation tools, and we developed a pretty good early relationship with Meshi. And we are planning to incorporate Meshi's AI generative 3D models into our software somehow. So we've already met with them. We've talked about integrations, and we're just kind of crossing that threshold. What I want to show is some of the possibilities that you can get from something like this. This is specifically a mailbox on a residential street near where I live. And I can go and show you the photos that I took of this mailbox. So I basically took 4 different pictures of the same mailbox. And then I took those into Meshy, where they have image to 3D generation. And I can add those images here. I can add multiple images if I want to. And then I can generate what eventually is a few different textureless options, and I can choose which one I like best. And after I choose the one I like best, I can say, okay, let's refine this and add some textures. That's the one I want. Now I've got that mailbox as a 3D object, which I can then download. And I can say what height I want it. So it might guess at a size. So I can say, I want this at a height of, let's say, 5 feet. And I can say I want the origin point here. You can do FBX or OBJ. Those are the 2 file types that you can import into Beyond Typicals. This will also potentially go for a Civil Engine version 2, I should say. This, again, trying to keep things consistent, but Beyond Typicals is the next major release that we have coming out. So I'm going to just choose FBX. I lost that window. Let's pull that back. Feet, that's close enough. FBX, and I basically say download. And this is going to download that FBX to my computer. It's done. I've done this a few times, but I will extract this to my desktop. Actually, we'll just put it in Meshy demo. Extract. And now I can go into Civil Engine. That's what I've got open. This would work for Beyond Typicals as well. Let's go to a nice open spot over here. And I'm going to go to Import, Asset, Import New. Let's go find the one I just made. That's this one. This is the FBX. It's on my computer. I say open. There's a couple settings you need to change. This is kind of like our best practices for base models, but generally setting the X base rotation will make sure it's upright. Meshy exports with the units of meters, so I'm going to keep that meters. I say finish import, and now this becomes an asset that I can click and drop into my scene. So really cool stuff. The possibilities on this are I don't want to say endless, but at least from a testing standpoint, I've done things like a picnic shelter with picnic benches. I did a European style apartment building, a horse and buggy. I've even tried to recreate some of these little warning delineators along a road. What I want to do is show like a live model. You're seeing stuff that I've done already. So we have some good vegetation. I'm gonna go with, I haven't tried this yet, the Pacific Madrone tree. And let's say it's a mature Pacific Madrone tree. I'm going to choose their latest AI model, Meshy 5. You can say whether you want it to be a public model or not. I'll just leave private. And then you can say if you want it symmetrical on or off. This is usually for like characters that, they do a lot of video game models. And I'm just going to say auto, it can choose, and then generate. And then this is going to take some tokens away from our account. This is our account, but hopefully our integration can figure out some kind of model for maybe building this in as a certain license type, or maybe it's an add-on or something like that. That's the stuff we still need to figure out. And in addition to pulling this somehow into our software, maybe a little more seamlessly. But instead of like going to the SketchUp 3D warehouse or trying to build your own, SketchUp model of something specific like a decorative light pole, whether if you have pictures of it, you can use the pictures to generate a model. If you're just trying to look for something that a text prompt will do, this is a really cool way to enhance the realism of your section by getting those assets that we could spend countless hours trying to make this stuff ourselves or purchasing them and building it into the software. But then the software itself becomes really cumbersome to download and install on your computer. So by keeping our asset library kind of trim, we're going to give you this flexibility of producing your own objects. So far, we've got 2 completed. It'll generate usually 4 options to choose from. This one's interesting. I'm just going to go ahead and prompt this and say, okay, take 10 more tokens and give me a max poly count that's just going to give me the highest resolution. Add some texture to it. That's something that you can choose yes or no, and basically confirm that. And it's going to now run a second process of trying to get that Madrone to a photorealistic object. While that's going, I'll show you kind of what these assets look like here um, in Beyond, or sorry, Civil Engine as well, just so you can see some other options here. Let's go to download. Some of these I don't believe I set a height when I exported it, but we can always scale those up. So that European style apartment building, I'm going to set that to finish import. This one's a little bit larger of a model. It's going to take a little bit to load up on the screen. There it is. Like I said, it's very small, but when I download it, you can prompt for how tall you want it to be. But we can just scale that up in our model and get that a little more realistic in size and just move it around like we need to. So really cool to be able to fill out your scenes with maybe something that isn't included in our software, but really adds to the realism of your 3D model. Just trying to use the latest advancements in AI to help complement our software to make this a more powerful tool overall. Let's go back to that web window, see how it's coming. It's about 50% done with texturing, so this may take another couple of minutes. But yeah, that's basically in a nutshell. So it's on us to figure out and work with Meshy to integrate this into the software as seamlessly as possible, but then also figure out some kind of licensing model that gives you access to this. As with all generative AI stuff, it costs money to do this stuff, so we have to figure out the right business model just to make sure that this is something that makes sense for us and all our users. Sam, do you have anything to add here?
Yeah, no, I think that's a cool demo. Just to add, there are multiple ways that he's prompting these. One is text prompt, and the other is image prompt. So this is going to be integrated into Beyond Typicals, and you'll be able to do both image or text. And most likely, like you mentioned, this is going to be an add-on. Just like so it'll be similar to cloud. Like we have to pay for those cloud servers, and so the add-on helps cover that cost and the development. The same thing here. Like there are tokens, there's inference time tokens being processed to generate those. And so that's part of why it will be a cost that you can do. There's a question Sam's asking about using Blender MCP, and we can look into that. But from what I've found, Meshy seems to have the most potential. And even if MCP is cheaper, it's going to cost something because again, you do have to pay for the generation models, which uses tokens no matter what source you do. And one thing I want to point out about this as well is I believe, according to Meshy, not only are you going to have the ability to generate models yourself, and then we'll be able to build out a library of all of our customers' generations. So that could be hundreds very quickly. But then also you're going to have access to Meshy's entire library. And their library is probably more video game focused than infrastructure and civil and transportation that we focus on. But still, there will be, thousands probably of assets that will be available all as part of whatever that add-on is that we make as part of this. So your own generations of Beyond CAD users, and then the entire um, Meshy library will all be available as part of that, which is pretty cool. So Brian's showing here the result of that. I don't know what this tree is supposed to look like. Like, is that close to an actual image of what that?
I think so. I'm not that familiar with it. I just Googled before this call like some unique vegetation in the Pacific Northwest to see if there's something. So I came up with that. It was either that or a honey locust, and I thought this would maybe be a good representation of something unique that's not already in our software. So there it is. It's in there. There's probably better prompting maybe to get it more photorealistic. I could have let the other options populate, and maybe a couple of these would have been better. You could also get a reference like I did with this one. I uploaded that image to this and it's given me 4 different options. Textureless, they all kind of look the same. I'm going to go ahead and choose this one and we'll just say fixed. I can keep this kind of low poly if I want. It should maybe texture a little bit faster. But again, just showing the possibilities here. It's street furniture. It's, custom bridge substructures and things like that. Like there's a lot of possibilities here, especially from at least where generative AI is today. Sam and I like to, when we talk about base modeling and things like that a lot, we like to say good from far, but far from good. Like if this is just filling out your scene, but isn't the focal point, what a great way to just add that realism, but keep people focused on the matter at hand, which is your transportation and civil projects, while still trying to make everything as realistic contextually around that. So it looks like you're actually visualizing that project where it matters the most.
Awesome. Yeah. Thanks,
Cool.
Brian.
Yeah.
And, just a bigger picture, we are trying to, like, we're watching the AI scene very closely and trying to be mindful of which things make sense in the context of our products. And some of them, like this, I think make a lot of sense. And there are other AI implementations that don't make as much sense or they don't make sense yet. So, just if it's any consolation, like we're trying to be mindful of that and blend this in because I think this is an incredible opportunity to take everything we're doing to the next level. I think Boost is going to be our underlying platform of like, if you see Boost, you know that it's like AI enhancements in our software. All right. So continuing on our slideshow in 2026, which is rapidly approaching, our goal is to squeak out Civil Engine version 2, which should be substantially better than what we're already experiencing in Civil Engine 1, which is very exciting. Beyond Typicals 5. Also, we'd like to get that out next year as well. And then, as I mentioned, AI features and integrations, as they make sense, we want to wisely integrate those into our products and then potentially some new products that we're looking into. We hear from time to time from our customers, some of the ideas are better than others, or some of the ideas make more sense for what we're trying to do. And so if there is a product that makes sense, we're hopefully getting to the scale and the experience and expertise that we can choose some of those and push them out the same way that we did with Civil Engine earlier this year. All right, so that's it. I mentioned, as I said, I didn't want to take a ton of time with this slideshow. So now I am opening it up to questions. The best way is just to put them in the chat box. And Brian, you can, actually, I'll just stop sharing my screen and I'll just review it myself. All right, so Kurt's asking, or oh, sorry, Kurt's just giving us kudos. Thanks, Kurt, and thanks for all of you. I mean, the kudos that you're giving us, uh, the support that you're giving us in paying for our software, like it makes all of this possible. I mean, it's truly exciting. All right, any plans on being able to re-import, update base models and cesium integration? So the first part, re-import, update base models, that's more realistic. I think we might get a 1.x version of Civil Engine maybe early next year that could have that. So if not, then definitely in version 2. And basically, when you import a base model and it changes, currently you have to re-import the base model and retexture it, which sounds worse than it actually is because everything else stays the same. Every path, every asset, all that stuff stays the same. And texturing now with the brush system, it's just super fast. So uh, updating will be important, but it's not going to save as much time as you think it might. The cesium integration, that's something we are hearing a lot, and that's something that we're looking into. I believe cesium was just acquired by Bentley. I'm not sure what that means in the grand scheme of things. Open Roads designers, users tend to love what we're doing with Civil Engine. So I think that there could be a lot of opportunities there. The problem with cesium and those types of integration is it's not just integrating, but we also have to add tools because there's going to be cuts and fills involved with existing surfaces. And that's where it starts to get more complex because then it's not just the ability to integrate cesium, it's the ability to also edit it, to save it, to do undo, redo. So there's just levels of complexity there. Uh, Maybe version 2, I'm not sure. And someone else is also saying we need to do cesium integration. All right. The user interface is updated a bit. Can you talk about what's been improved? I'm not sure which user interface you are referencing, Pamela. I mean, Civil Engine is a little different interface than Beyond Typicals, so you may be noticing that. But either way, they're pretty similar. And as I mentioned, over time, we're getting them in sync as much as possible, even though they are two different uses and two different products, because we have a lot of users that are using both at this point. System integration, that's not something on our short-term roadmap. It creates more problems than it solves at this point, and we really just want to focus on making our traffic system get better and better. And the glaring omission there, and we're leaving it in beta for this reason, is the merging, diverging, linking doesn't work very well yet. And so again, either 1.x or 2.0, fixing that, continue to improve it. That's our goal here. All right. Beyond Typicals 4 handles state planes for large scale projects. So I think that's importing with global georeferencing. Um, that's just not something, again, that we have addressed yet in either of our products. And so we're encouraging our customers to relocate their models to the point of origin and whatever tool they're using, export there. Things do come in relative to each other. If you do export them all with the same settings, they should import with the same settings. But if you're importing multiple things out of multiple software products and then bringing them in, they're not going to automatically know where they are in the global reference. And so, again, that's just the limitation of where we are in version 1 software. But it is, again, something on our roadmap. Another thing too that's similar to that is like the ability to import a polyline and then have a path replace that polyline, so you don't have to manually click through striping, for example. That's another thing that we're looking into, and I think could be something realistic in version 2. But again, version 2 is next year at the earliest. All right. Civil engine traffic system handle roundabout traffic. Absolutely. Yep. We're seeing that a lot. Sometimes it's just a matter of finessing and tweaking to get it right. And even if you get it right, you still may have cars drive through each other on occasion, but it's not that difficult to get a system that works very well 95% of the time, which is what you need to make a render. So if you um, if you keep the traffic volumes low, if you keep the speeds low, typically roundabouts work pretty well. I actually think I have a version open that I can share. And if you guys haven't already, make sure to check out our YouTube channel and content. We're always trying to put out new stuff, and LinkedIn as well. Some of this is stuff that we're building internally. We have an internal team that built some of these base models, and some of it's stuff that we share that we're donating from customers. As we get more and more customers, those opportunities present themselves. But this is one of the civil visualizing with Sam models that I did. And you can see here that car, yep, it just missed the truck. So, but then that truck went through the truck, the big truck. So, it's just finessing. It's not difficult to get a render out of something like this. And I could even spend more time tweaking it and getting better results, but you can absolutely do. And let me turn on, if you haven't seen Civil Engine, or if you didn't know this is available. So you can see here, these are the stop bar visualizers, the red. So now you can see here, this one in the right just turned green. And then we'll see another one turn green. So that one turned green. And all this is being controlled with our intersection controller. I have two of them. I have one for existing and one proposed. That's something cool about this model. And if you guys want to see this, we didn't include it as an example project, but I can send you the CE file. This is just a standard intersection. Same thing. This is a stop sign scenario versus a traffic signal, but it's still working. And I was able to do that just by setting up this intersection controller and tweaking it until I got the correct traffic volumes and times. And one thing that I love about Civil Engine is you can speed that up. So I can go to 5x. And one of the bugs that we fixed is there were some bugs related to this, especially when you went up to like 10x or 50x, and we smoothed that out in version 1.1. So if you were having issues turning up the speed, those should be ironed out, and all of this stuff works better and better.
I'll just add real quick to that
Sure.
Sam, just because you didn't kind of close the loop on this, but like Sam mentioned that advanced traffic is still in beta mostly because of the merge diverge functionality isn't quite there, and I think getting that linked in will probably help with roundabout traffic looking more natural already or as well. So there's improvements to be done with advanced traffic, and I do think it would help with roundabout, making sure that cars aren't necessarily clipping through each other.
Yep. Cool. Are there other questions coming in, Brian?
I don't see any. We just got one. Is the lighting geospatially correct? And are you able to change the time of day, month, year, etc.?
Yeah, that is a good question. The short answer is no. So you can change the time of day, but you can't do it doesn't know the coordinates, it doesn't know the time of the year, like some other visualization tools. But what I would do in that scenario, again, this is version one. In future versions, we should definitely have more features like that. But for now, I would take a reference photo, and in that reference photo, you know the location, you know the time of day, you know the direction, all that stuff. And then I would try and match the shadows to something of similar height in Civil Engine, and then you're going to get pretty close results there. So I wouldn't pretend that Civil Engine is going to do any sort of shadow analysis. There are much better tools for that, but I think you could get pretty close by doing that. And that's something that I do when I'm doing photo compositing, is I use reference just to make sure that the shadows match visually, but you can do similar things if you want to get something more precise. It's a good question.
There's also things you can do with textures and assets to make it look like a winter scene. You know, you can choose trees that have brown leaves or are bare, or you can add, yeah, we do have a snow scene effect here where if you change that grass texture to snow, then maybe it starts to look more winter, but we don't have like full like fleshed out like a slider that just automatically changes that the vegetation and things like that as you're going.
Yeah, and I think Brian mentioned this, but part of Beyond Typicals and civil engineifying it is bringing these scene effects over. So this bottom left camera box should match pretty similar. I don't think we're going to bring Explore mode over, but camera setting and scene effects should match in Beyond Typicals for what you're seeing here in Civil Engine.
I got a question on that. Would real skies be an option for HDR lighting?
Yeah, again, it's on our roadmap. It's something that I'm aware of. It would be amazing to have. It's just not available yet, and something that we'll look at when we get closer to version two.
Cool. Another question. Any chance to have cars with more color variations for both Beyond Typicals and Civil Engine?
Yes, and we actually do have that. So if you go to traffic, so this was something. These are the sorts of things and conversations that we have internally. What do we want to do? What don't we want to do? And we learned early on, especially with Beyond Typicals, that if you have brightly colored vehicles, it causes more problems than it solves. And so our decision in Civil Engine was, let's make it monochromatic's not the word. There's another word for it, but basically grayscale. Let's make our vehicles grayscale. So whites, grays, blacks. 99% of people or times people are never going to notice, because you don't want a bright pink vehicle driving through your scene and distracting from it. You want something that blends in. And actually, if you spend as much time looking at traffic and roads as I do, you notice that most vehicles are on the grayscale. That said, we did want to have that option. So if you go into our library, we have a number of colorful vehicles. They're just off by default. And so if you turn them on, and we have videos that show how you do this, then they'll start showing up in whatever percentages that you want. And that way you can have as much color as you would like to have. And there are actually a number of other vehicles that we just don't have turned on by default because they don't blend in as well. But if you're like, you want to show something specific, like we've got this Land Rover looking vehicle, like you can turn that on. Or we've got a futuristic truck that you can turn on, and have that show up as well. So the beauty and the brilliance of the traffic system is there's just so much control, not just over the vehicles and where they're going, but actually the traffic library, which vehicles show up. And so In future versions, what I would like to do is have more control over like color picker. So you say, I want 5% yellow, 7% red, and so on. And it actually is built into the texture of the vehicle and it changes it in real time. But for now, there are actually unique vehicles that show up with those colors.
Cool. All right. A couple more questions are coming in. I've answered a couple related to vehicles coming in beyond Typicals 4. Basically, all these improvements or all these customizations to these expanded vehicle libraries are planned to come over into our next update of Beyond Typicals, which is version 4, which is expected at the later this year. Cool. So, a question about any plans on importing Gaussian splats. I feel like that's probably a similar uh, question related to cesium integration.
Yeah, I mean, Gaussian splats is a really cool technology. It's similar to we call it mesh clouds, like where you go out and you LiDAR scan something. The challenge is, as far as I know, Gaussian splats isn't creating a 3D mesh, and that's something that we need in Civil Engine or Beyond Typicals to be able to apply a texture to because you're getting lighting. Gaussian splats like an entirely different pipeline. Probably got the lighting baked in, as far as I know. It's not you're not applying texture information to it. It's more just like a bunch of points. So as of now, I don't think it's going to make a lot of sense to bring it in. That said, who knows what the future is going to bring? I could see a scenario where you bring it in, as the buildings, and that would create something that would be like a 3D version of a photo composite kind of. But for now, it's not going to make a lot of sense because we're focusing on 3D geometry and things that can be textured and uh, shadows and so on. And it's just a different type of data.
Right. Kovan asks, do we have plans to support Space Mouse connection or similar Space Mouse? Which I know this has come up before, it possibly from Kovan earlier. I had not heard of this. It seems like just a mouse geared toward better 3D navigation. And currently, I wouldn't say we have a firm timetable on that, but as of now, we're just really supporting generic Windows mice, I'd say. Sam, do you have anything to add to that?
No, I mean, it's the same. I would say pretty much the same thing. Like when our customer base is in numbers in the hundreds, maybe the thousands, you have to have a good chunk of that user base to justify the development of it. VR, like the number of people that are going to use VR on actual projects is a pretty low percentage. And so we're actually only addressed a very small number of users if we do that. So we have to weigh that in comparison to the development time that it would take. For things that impact 90% of users, like our traffic system or photo compositing or something, those things go higher up. But then more niche cases we just can't address. I mean, the steering wheel is kind of a niche case. We justified it because it didn't take that much development time and because it's really fun for marketing. And some people will actually use it on public meetings. So there were a few justifications and a low development time. So we pushed out even that niche thing. But um, that's just kind of how our development process works is we have to triage based on how many people is this going to impact and how much is the development time. And that kind of figures out which things rise to the top.
Cool. Zane asked, I think we kind of got this question already, but HDRIs for custom backgrounds?
Yeah, we already asked that. I think functionally, it's not that difficult. I mean, it's basically like a sphere that you put around your thing. And then the challenge is you have to give some customization because you might want to rotate it or stretch it or other things like that. So I think that's definitely something that we'll have in version 2, maybe version 1.x earlier in the year, but it's just not available now.
Cool. Joe asks, do we need to have the pivot point of the geometry be at 0, 0 when we export to have different files come in at the same origin? Example, proposed road, existing 3D terrain, and have them fit with each other.
I'll let you take that, Brian.
Yeah, essentially, yes. That's probably the best way to do it. There's It kind of depends on what modeling tool you're using to create your FBX or OBJ, but we don't support geospatial coordinate systems right now. So whatever you can do to get your 3D model near 0, 0, 0 in a consistent spot. So like you said, if you have multiple imports or exports and then imports, as long as they're all within the same coordinate and rotation space and scale to each other that are all exported probably out of the same 3D modeling tool, those should all come in together relative to each other, but you do need to get that close to the origin point. Jacob asks, not sure if it's a feature already or not, but is Beyond Typicals 4 capable of having a camera POV follow along with a singular car and or capable of highlighting a single car with a static camera? I don't think that's necessarily in the pipeline. Sam did talk about potentially bringing Publisher over from Civil Engine, which does kind of have that functionality. It doesn't necessarily lock to a specific singular car, but there would be ways to kind of put your camera along a path. What I would say for Beyond Typicals is it's probably not terribly necessary to do that in a lot of instances, mainly because of the limitation of Beyond Typicals, which is this is a short, straight line segment of roadway. Um, we generally look at this as like you don't necessarily you're not going to follow that car through an intersection or around a roundabout in Beyond Typicals. Most of the traffic just moves kind of in and out of the screen in straight lines. So you're kind of looking at representative sections of a roadway instead of like an actual navigation of an area. Yeah, Sam's showing this right here where the camera is actually following along um, a path with this vehicle.
Well, I'm
Uh,
driving,
oh,
so
you're driving. Yeah, you are.
yeah. So this
I
one
was
you'd
like
have to
that.
do some sort of screen capture to do it,
Yeah.
but you can also use a path camera and match the speed to vehicles, and it's pretty easy to get some similar things here. I'm gonna, oh yeah, he ran me off the
Get
road.
right
I'm
off
gonna
the road.
blame that guy. Yeah, I'm gonna follow up my steering wheel video that I just posted yesterday with have my kids do the same thing with a Xbox controller and have them actually run around. I might even, you guys are like, Sam, are you a serious person or are you just having your kids play with the software? But have them do the explore mode where you're actually running around. So like this one, my kids play an unhealthy amount of Fortnite and COD and all those things, and so maybe I'll have them all challenged to see if they can run around a certain route and see who does it the fastest and with an Xbox controller.
Yeah, but just to highlight this and just elaborate on the response to Jacob's question, like this is Civil Engine. This is a larger project area. There can be needs to see like what is it like to walk around this intersection and ride a bike through this roundabout, drive a car on this DDI. Like those are all things you would want to visualize in a larger complex project visualization, which is why we have those kind of functions here in Civil Engine. And beyond typicals just being the short straight line segment, we don't expect there to be that much of a need for it, but we could be wrong. And if that's the case, we do have this set up in Civil Engine to port over if needed in Beyond Typicals. Great. Pablo mentions just following up on the Gaussian splat. I'm getting some things in my way here. Oh, Gaussian splats have shadows and lighting baked in. He was just thinking and using them for the surroundings. So good information there. Joe, can we fly around in real time for presentation?
I mean, is this a civil engine question or beyond
I
typicals? I
imagine
mean,
it's Civil Engine. So like the camera itself can be flown around. Um, Sam, I don't know if maybe you want to go into Explorer mode options for the future.
oh yeah, I mean, one thing that we want to do is so right now you have three options. You can ride a bike, and I showed walking and driving a car, but you can also ride a bike. And so we also want to add some motorcycles and helicopters in the future. So that's just some more options as far as flying around in explore mode. And again, all of these are available in first person or third person. This would be a real scary scenario in real life. So it won't terrify us. So yeah, you can always just fly around the way that I fly around, like just using your mouse and a camera. But we actually want to literally be able to fly using a helicopter in future updates.
Yeah, you also have the option in Publisher to set keyframes, so you could potentially script the motion and rotation of that camera through the sky, and then and highlight or pick certain points through that project area to hit as it flies through. So if you're looking for some kind of fly through rendering, this Publisher keyframing video render would probably be your solution for something like that. There we go. All right. Eric says, you may have addressed this earlier. Are there improvements in water materials and animation in the new version, or when can we expect that with Beyond Typicals specifically? Um, that's a good question. I haven't heard a lot of feedback on water. I have, we do have several different options for water in Civil Engine. So that could be something that we look at in Beyond Typicals because I do think there are fewer options in Beyond Typicals than what we put into Civil Engine. So I will definitely make a note of that and see if we can expand our water options for the water that would flow in a roadside swale versus the water that would be, in a lake next to a roadway versus oceanside. There's probably some things we can do there beyond typicals.
Yeah, and I did put out a video on our YouTube channel. It's also on Beyond CAD University, showing all the different ways you can do water in Civil Engine. So there are a number of different ways you can do them there already. So I live in Nevada. We don't believe in water here. So I hear that other people have that, but I say that, but now I live close to Tahoe, so we do have some water.
Cool. Zane follows up that a better water path would be great, maybe more 3D than the current option. Zane, are you referring specifically to the Civil Engine water paths?
Or a section in Beyond Typicals.
Yes. So
Okay.
it's the water path. There are other ways, like Sam just mentioned. There you can make an area of water. You can use a dynamic asset and give it a water texture. So there are a few other different ways to put water into the scene that may look more realistic than the path option. The path I think works best for like the swales or creeks that may be next to a roadway that don't carry as much water in them. Oh, yeah, there's also that high quality water toggle, which is there. There's a pull down on that option where you can choose this is the lake option of water. But yeah, I do think there's potentially some performance improvements here too that you can see kind of a little bit of overlapping of the textures, kind of see almost like rectangles along that pathway. So I do think there are improvements to be had here.
Yeah, good questions.
Yep.
We got just a few more minutes. We want to wrap up before the end of the hour. If there's any more questions. So Joe's asking, can you do a cross section to show underground utilities in Civil Engine? I mean, you definitely can. It's not going to be built for that as easily as it is in Beyond Typicals. But if you want to build a base model that has that, then you could do it. But we'll show something that is kind of a hidden thing, but pretty cool in Civil Engine is we have a pipe path preset. So let's say that we wanted to do a pipe. Let me turn on my path visualizers. So you can see here the blue is all the vehicles. So if I wanted to do a pipe, then it's doing a pipe, but it's actually offsetting this 4 feet below the ground. And all the presets, they're all for your convenience, but this, I mean, you can make whatever you want. And now you can save and send these to other users as well. So this pipe is underground by default because it's offset 4 feet below. If you go over here to vertical offset 4 feet, so if I put that at 0, now it's at the surface. So you can make that as low as you want. So if we wanted to get fancy, we could try and do some sort of, could go to our texturing system, and I may ruin or break things, but let's say that I wanted to do glass here. Yeah, this might crash everything, oh, there we go. Yeah, so if you wanted to do some sort of preview below the surface, you could just turn some of those surfaces uh, to like glass or transparent or something like that. And that's going to be pretty cool for um, doing some views like that. I've done some of those in the past, and it's kind of neat on what you can do if you want to be creative. So yeah, we give those tools, but how you want to use them is up to you.
Excellent. Well, that is it for questions in the chat. If you have any other questions, we're happy to field them. You can email us. I put at the top of the chat Sam and I's email address, but it's sam@beyondcad.com or brian@beyondcad.com. Really appreciate everyone attending today. I will get the recording of this and get it up to YouTube as soon as possible so you can share it with others or refer back to it if you need to in the future. Thank you all so much for your support.
Thanks, everyone. And just one other shout out to our development team, Aaron and Johnny and Ben and Adam. They make this all possible as well. So
Excellent.
thanks, everyone. Have a
Thanks all.
wonderful Tuesday. Bye.